In 1932, the Brazilian population was amazed by a very strange story. A young fellow from Minas Gerais, aged 22, born in the forgotten town of Pedro Leopoldo, has just released a book called Parnassus from Beyond the Grave. This guy, a certain Francisco Candido Xavier, had only completed, and with so much difficulty, the elementary school. And yet his work in this amazing book had 259 poems, signed by famous Brazilian and Portuguese authors of poetry, with one detail: all those poets were dead. But the boy claimed that those poems were not his. The kind and the people who gathered around him, Kardecist spiritist followers of the French counselor Allan Kardec, said the same thing. How could he compose works of that quality? Even if he was of very rare intelligence, immeasurable, he had not had enough culture to mimic the absolute perfection of established poets. They would somehow get in contact with Chico, and dictating hundreds of poems showcasing their perfect technique. At that time, Brazil was divided on the phenomenon. Literary critics were forced to admit that the poems were identical to the work of the dead. Others denied, angry, driven by questions of faith, the possibility of the dead to communicate through a medium, but could not explain scientifically what was happening. Most of the Brazilian people decided to wait, and today, more than 70 years later, those expectations have become a deep respect to the country's biggest myth, a simple man who over this period produced 400 books through the fantastic world of the dead. Chico psychographed his first message on July 8, 1927, and it took 5 more years for that to become his first book. Francisco's mediumistic abilities became obvious when he was 6 years old, as his discarnate mother appeared to him. At this time, Chico found himself to the point of losing his sanity. In addition to hearing voices, he used to see spirits all over the church in Matosinhos. At this point, his family, very concerned about Chico's mental health, thought he was going crazy. Chico became a spiritualist on the occasion of the disease of his sister, Maria Xavier. She had a disease that no doctor could heal. Then, the family appealed to a friend, Ramiro Paracio, a healing medium, who found that her problem was an obsession and managed to cure it. The whole Xavier family became spiritists, and Ramiro's wife founded an evangelical spiritist center, Luis Gonzaga, where Xavier manifested his ability for automatic writing. At one of these sessions, Paracio had a vision of a priestly spirit, Emmanuel, who became Xavier's spirit guide thereafter. Xavier's mediumship continued in the form of automatic writing from spirit dictation. He was a humble man, although he was sought out by thousands and thousands of people from many countries for his wisdom, and as a medium to the world of spirits, he led a simple life, teaching the spiritist doctrine by word and example. Although nearly blind in one eye, he wrote more than 400 books, which sold over 25 million copies. Some of these have been translated into Spanish, French, Japanese, Esperanto, and English. And all the estimated $15 million in revenue went to charitable work. His books were written psychographically, a method whereby his hand was guided by spirits who wanted to communicate a written message, or sometimes entire books. Xavier's life was dedicated to convince the skeptics and materialists that the venture of life doesn't end with the death of the body. So he and his group decided to materialize their ethereal evidence. This woman called Anna was materialized in Pedro Leopoldo in 1954 in one of the sessions run by Chico. He was the personalized charity, bringing hope to as many people as possible. He visited invalids in the district and undertook voluntary social work at his Pedro Leopoldo Spiritist Center at Uberaba. Hundreds of visitors came to this center for a personal message delivered by Xavier in a trance. With instructions on individual problems, whether spiritual or physical, he never charged for attending to the public. In spite of the enormous popularity of his prodigious literary output, Xavier never accepted payment for any of his books, and even disclaimed personal credit by the phrase, "dictated by the spirit of," on the title page of each of his books. He lived a life of total humbleness, simplicity, and total devotion to his fellow human beings. The constant practice of love towards one another encompasses his legacy to humanity.